Good evening, this is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update for October 28th around 6 p.m. Here was the tracking map from a couple of days ago for Hurricane Sandy when it was down in the Bahamas. And the forecast indicated that this system would move more to the northwest as the system would approach land from a more southeasterly perspective, which would have pushed a lot more water up into New Jersey and surrounding areas if this angle were to take place. And again, it all depends on the tides and the timing of the center of circulation coming in. But if we go into today's cone of error, a little bit different here. You can notice that the angle is coming in more of a west-northwest approach as it moves into New Jersey. And this is huge because the water would be piling up more parallel to the Long Island shoreline and more directly into New Jersey, and the winds would be more directly offshore down in Ocean City and the Delmarva Peninsula as this moves on shore. So this is quite a different angle than what they were originally expecting, and that's going to make all the difference for New York City, Long Island, and surrounding areas. So let's get to what the thinking is on this. Well, first of all, let me get to the rainfall. We're expecting up to 10 inches of rain in the impacted areas of New Jersey. We have Ocean City, Maryland, and Delaware and areas like this should see up to around 10 inches. Now, when you're talking Long Island, you're talking 2 to 4 inches, and the same thing goes for down near Cape Hatteras and the Tidewater area. You're talking about 4 to 6 inches of rain when this is all said and done. Now, here's the all-important intensity model forecast from the five performing models that do the intensity forecast. Some of these models also do track forecast, but they also do intensity. And the best performing model out of these 5 models that you see listed there is the GFDL model. Now, going out about 5 days, it's been off by about 7.7 miles per hour, so that's pretty good on the intensity forecast. Compared to the HWRF, it's off by about 8.5 miles, and the ICON 16 miles, the IVCN 17 miles, and the SHIPS model is 11 miles off. So the best performer is the GFDL. So if we take that into consideration and consider that landfall is going to take place in a right around 30-hour time period from right now, we're talking winds right around 75 to 80 miles an hour at landfall in New Jersey. Now, if the other models are right, we're talking about 80 miles an hour if the GFDL is right. The other models would be right around 65 to 75 miles an hour in this range if the other models are right. So it'll be interesting to see if the GFDL is correct on the final landfall of Hurricane Sandy, but the GFDL has been the best performer overall on intensity. Here's a look at Sandy at the enhanced IR, and you can see that the system is got convection still wrapping around the center as a truly tropical system, but notice out here there's banding way away from the center, so it's kind of got both things going for it, the extra tropical look and the tropical look. But I think it's sooner or later, once it hits those colder waters, I think it's going to take on a truly extra tropical form, which means the winds are going to spread way away from the center. So I don't want people focusing on Atlantic City or Cape May, New Jersey, even though that's where the projected landfall point is going to be, as this could spread all the way up to Long Island and all the way down towards the Delmarva Peninsula. Could get easily gust up to hurricane force as this comes in, and tremendous tidal flooding and surge flooding that could come in. So speaking of which, let's go ahead and pull up the HurTrack program and animate this. And this is all going to make all the difference in the world is the direction of the winds as this comes in. And again, this is based on the 5 p.m. advisory that just came out a little over an hour ago. And let's go ahead and take a look at the closing in on landfall, which will take place around 8 p.m. tomorrow night. Now, that's a high tide. The tide is high at 8 p.m. tomorrow night. And at this point, we're going to see winds coming out of the northeast towards the shoreline of New Jersey. But the good news for Long Island is the winds would be paralleling the shoreline, and if this takes place, there would not be that tremendous coastal flooding due to the fact that the winds would be kind of paralleling the coast. And then down here in Ocean City and surrounding areas, the winds would be offshore at the time of high tide. So that's the good news out of this. But what's going to happen during the night is the system will move in, and at the time that the winds are shifting to the south, it's going to be low tide. So that's also good news, considering it could be a lot worse if it was high tide. So the worst winds and the highest waters are coming in, it's going to be low tide. And again, the winds continue to parallel Long Island and are offshore down here as low tide is happening in the middle of the night. What's going to happen now is the high tide in the early morning hours. When the tide gets high at 8 o'clock on Tuesday morning, the system will be inland and begin to be weakening, and the winds should be lightening up just slightly offshore here, but they're still going to be high. We're talking 55 knot winds. That's 65 mile per hour winds pushing into New York City, southern shores of Long Island, all into New Jersey, Atlantic City. All these areas are going to be dealing with southeast and east-southeast winds on the backside of Hurricane Sandy, which should be tropical at that time, no longer a hurricane, and that would be at high tide. So I think the worst conditions are going to be on Tuesday morning as the system is weakening while it's inland. That's when the water is going to start piling up. And you see that with a lot of the big hurricanes like Katrina too. After the center moves in, then the water moves in after that. So that's what I'm concerned about is for Tuesday morning. All right, let's take a look at all the models combined here. And this is using the Hurricane City maps, zoomed in model maps using the drop-down menu at Hurricane City. And you can pull these maps up and run all the models. And there they are, tightly clustered between New Jersey and Maryland and Delaware, and they're all packed real tightly in there. Now, yesterday, this was all over the place. There were some models up here yesterday that were up in here, and some were up in here, and some were even down here. But today, it's very much more consolidated. Right around New Jersey, southern New Jersey, is where the point of impact is expected to be. Now, I want to show you the best performing model, but first let me show you the sea surface temperatures right near where Sandy is going to come in tomorrow and Tuesday morning. We're talking 17 degrees Celsius temperatures. That's low to mid 60s right off the coast, and these systems really don't like cold temperatures. However, this is going to become an extra tropical type system, so it won't really affect it very much, but there may be some weakening slightly in here as it hits these colder waters, or it could simply maintain itself due to baroclinic activity that's going to be mixing into the system and may just maintain its hurricane intensity as it moves inland. Remain to be seen how that's all going to play out, but generally hurricanes don't like colder sea surface temperatures, so I would imagine at this point here is when it would become an extra tropical storm before landfall when it hits these colder sea surface temperatures out here. Now, the best performing model overall has been the AHWI, and let me pull that up here. And of all the models running, all the last image I showed you with all the models tightly clustered, the best performer out of that entire group is this model right here. And it's only been off by about 50.6 miles at 5 days, so we definitely have a projected landfall in southern New Jersey and near Cape Cod, Cape May, New Jersey, rather, and south of Atlantic City, although I think the entire New Jersey coastline is going to get slammed by this thing. But that's the latest projection with the best performing model, and this has it coming in right near the southern areas of New Jersey. All right, now let's talk a little bit about, let's pull the HER track up one more time and go back to the point of landfall, which is going to begin around 9 p.m. tomorrow night. The plans are to do the hurricane warning show, even though this may be extratropical transition at that time. The plans are to do the hurricane warning show starting around 9 p.m. up until around midnight. Now, if this system slows up and takes longer to get in here, it might be later. But there will be a portion of the recorded hurricane warning show on Monday night. And then Tuesday morning, Bill Phillips will take over from Virginia Beach. What we're going to do is show you all kinds of different media, webcams. There's a bunch of chasers that are going to have cams up and down the coast. Fred up in Long Island might be out there driving around. We'll see what's going on in Long Island. We'll be paying close attention to New York City to see if that water is piling up. And all this will be archived for our archive subscribers, and a file will be made up in about a week or two to show you how the internet covered it, all the different angles of webcams and radars and all kinds of stuff that was on the internet. And, of course, we'll sprinkle a little TV in there, too, localized news stations with their coverage and the reporters out in the field. And we'll put a nice little package together for the archive subscribers. If you're not already a subscriber, it's a $20 annual fee, and that helps pay the expenses to keep Hurricane City on the internet. And you can watch all the past storms in history that ever made landfall and how the internet covered it with all the webcams and everything. So it's a plus we have a bunch of shows the Weather in the Media shows where we interview people in the weather business. In fact, the next show is coming up on November 1st at 8 p.m. My special guest will be Chris Cridler, author and storm chaser. We're talking about romance out in the plains, how people meet each other from different places around the country, and there's been some love stories and whatnot that take place out there. So we'll talk about that on November 1st. You want to tune in for that 8 p.m. right here at hurricanecity.tv. Anyway, best of luck to the people in New Jersey, Long Island, Delaware, down into Maryland, all these areas, because you're going to be dealing with very high winds for the next several days. Get all your loose objects indoors, even the heavy stuff. Get it out of the way because there's going to be a lot of wind for several days. The winds are going to be out of the east, and they're going to shift to the south. You're going to have things blowing all over the place. It's going to be a mess, a lot of rainfall. Just stay indoors. Be careful. Watch for power lines coming down, that sort of thing. And we'll be watching it right along with you tomorrow night going into Tuesday. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.